Matrix, a sci-fi action film about a computer hacker named Neo stuns audiences with its groundbreaking visual effects and sophisticated plot.
It's not as simple as this protagonist and that antagonist. It's really us against the entire world.
Off the screen, John Muhammad and Lee Malvo are starting their own terrifying rebellion.
In Lee's skewed perception, he thought he was on a mission to make the world a better place.
Their mission will lead to 21 days of murder, where anyone is a target and no one is safe.
I think that the DC sniper shootings were among the worst crimes in history.
But what few people know is it all stemmed from a movie.
I do not think most people realize that this was a copycat crime related to The Matrix at all.
I still don't understand how two people could do that kind of a thing. It still doesn't make any sense to me.
In 1999, visionary filmmakers Lana and Lily Wachowski create a cerebral sci-fi masterpiece titled The Matrix.
The premise of The Matrix essentially is that in the future, the computers have taken over what we would accept as normal life.
The movie stars Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves, two men who form a bond in order to save the world from artificial intelligence.
The character that Lawrence Fishburne plays, Morpheus, is really the leader of this rebellion. He sees the Keanu Reeves character, Neo, somewhat as a messianic figure.
The film transcends movie stereotypes with its larger-than-life fight scenes and complicated plot, ultimately changing how action films are created today.
Every part of that film gives you something to look forward to. You want to see this again.
For a teenager named Lee Malvo and his mentor John Muhammad, The Matrix is not only a brilliant movie, but also a training guide for murder. In an exclusive interview with reporter Anthony Mioli, Lee Malvo shares his terrifying story.
I think it paralyzed a certain portion of the nation. You really felt like nobody was safe no matter where you lived.
Don't think about this person, don't think about their family. Just focus simply on exactly what you have to do, and just do what you have to do.
It's a killing spree, known as the DC Sniper Case.
A man has been killed in front of me. How is he being killed in front of you? I was shot. I don't know.
Deeply saddened by the recent tragedy that we've seen here in Washington. There is a ruthless person on the loose.
But the motivation for this crime is straight out of Hollywood.
You've seen The Matrix.
Right?
There is a scene in which Morpheus is training Neo and they're walking in the street. And there's this girl in a pretty red dress. He's ogling her the entire time, and Morpheus tells him to turn around. And he turns around and sees an agent. He says everyone's a part of the system.
I do not think most people realize that this was a copycat crime related to The Matrix at all.
So as far as Muhammad was concerned, if you participate in the system, you're an enemy.
Lee Malvo's story begins in the Caribbean. His life seems to be ordinary.
Lee was born an only child and grew up with a mother and father. He was very close to his father.
But Lee's dad is rarely home.
Lee's father worked in construction, so at times he would travel wherever there was work. So when his father would leave, he felt at times that he was abandoned.
When Lee is just a young boy, his father leaves for good.
His father left because of an infidelity, and his mother continued to raise him. However, she was very abusive.
Lee, what have you done all day? You haven't done one chore that I gave you. I found a D in your book bag. Exactly what do you do all day? Worthless!
He knew that when he got home, if he had anything less than an A, his mom had a beating formula for him, and she would beat him several times based upon his grade.
I'm out there all day long working my fingers to the bone trying to feed your sorry tail, and you can't even clean up around here. Lee, look at me when I'm talking to you.
She blamed me for pretty much everything. I mean, if something went wrong, it's Lee's fault, right?
Lee's mom decided to contact Lee's father to take care of him.
Michael, where are you?
Lee's father did not take him in because he was involved at the time with another woman.
God! He's not coming.
The news devastates Lee.
Lee held his father up on a pedestal. He idolized him based on his fantasies and dreams. And all it was a fantasy. His father wasn't capable of saving him.
Soon, Lee's mother abandons him too.
I think in 1999, my mom had left me on the island by myself for a year. Basically, I fended for myself. My landlord, he had the electricity turned off. I remember I was sitting down writing my journal, and I said, I have no one. Life is cold, life is hard. I decided then I would never cry, and I would never complain about anything.
Throughout Lee's life, he never was able to feel that I belong. I am worthy. People love me.
Lee desperately wants a father figure in his life. And then he finds one. While at a local arcade, he meets a man named John Allen Muhammad.
I first came in contact with Mr. Muhammad when I was living in Antigua, I think in 1999. That's where I first saw Muhammad and his son. They were playing a game, which I used to play. I used to come back every Wednesday, because that's usually when they'd be there just to watch this relationship. I wanted that relationship.
Muhammad had a great presence. People liked him. He was educated. He had served in the military. He liked everyone, and everyone liked him.
There were certain things about him. He was confident.
Ran out of quarters? It's your lucky day.
In the area where he was, money was difficult to come by. So someone who was able to provide for anyone was looked at as sort of a hero or someone to look up to.
Lee befriends John and soon becomes a daily fixture in his life. John even starts calling Lee his son.
It stuck with, he said, from that moment on, I would do anything for that man. And so that was that bonding moment for that father-son relationship.
But in 2001, their relationship is set to change.
John Allen Muhammad had been married and had 3 children. The ex-wife now had filed a restraining order. John violated that restraining order, and his ex-wife ended up with custody of the 3 children.
John's ex-wife takes his kids to America while he and Lee Malvo are still living in Antigua.
She took my kids, Lee. And she thinks she can get away with it.
Muhammad had an acute change in his own behavior.
Those are my kids.
Went from a loving, caring person to a mean, spiteful, and vengeful person.
John tells Lee he wants his family back, no matter what the cost.
Losing those children was a turning point in his life and eventually leading to the Beltway shootings.
If you go inside this world thinking that it's easy, thinking that it owes you something, it don't.
John Muhammad has a sinister plot formulating. A plot, John says, that is straight from Lee's favorite movie.
I've watched The Matrix at least 300 times. Not all of them with John, but we watched together at least 6 times, again and again and again and again and again.
John tells Lee that the world is a system designed to destroy, just like in The Matrix. And now they need to fight the system together.
He told me that there's going to come a time when I'm going to ask you to do things that you're not going to understand.
It's just like this movie, Matrix.
John emphasizes to Lee a very important thing. John is telling him that everyone is against us, so we have to take charge.
Lee listens, and Lee takes it all in.
I need you to fight with me. I need you to fight with me.
And Lee wants to hear this. He's wanted to hear this all his life, that he's needed, that he's valued, that he's wanted.
John decides he and Lee will be the ones to get his kids back. He trains Lee for the upcoming battle, just like Morpheus trains Neo to save mankind.
I shot everything from a 22 all the way up to a 50 caliber sniper rifle, open to closing, all day.
In The Matrix, we see so many really hard, intricate training scenes that Morpheus takes Neo through. And the more he fights, the stronger he gets.
Every day there was a task that was set. There was goals. I mean, you're gonna go to the gym twice a day, you're gonna work out. This is what we're gonna do today. It was a gradual process of this training.
John Muhammad and Lee Malvo traveled to America to begin their mission. On February 16, 2002, in Washington State, John puts his apprentice to the test. They drive up to the house of a woman who recently helped Muhammad's ex-wife win custody of his children.
You're ready. You're built for this.
Lee is ready to prove to John that he is the chosen one, just like in The Matrix.
He's instructed to shoot. He's instructed to kill.
It was very powerful to see a visual movie that replicated the exact idea that John Allen Muhammad was telling Lee, this is what's going on, and unless we do something, this is the system that you're going to live in.
The blockbuster film, The Matrix, wins 4 Academy Awards and brings in over $460 million worldwide.
When The Matrix hit the screens in 1999, people were going around with dark sunglasses. Some people had shaved their head. We all kind of identified with that hero, anti-hero sort of feeling that you got from watching that film. Brilliantly done.
The sci-fi thriller introduces audiences to a computer hacker named Neo on a mission to save the human race with the help of his mentor, Morpheus.
Well, The Matrix isn't just an action-adventure film. It actually shows relationships between two people and the bond between two people.
And just like in the film, John Muhammad and Lee Malvo have formed a bond, and the two men set out on a deadly mission.
I've watched The Matrix at least 300 times, again and again and again and again and again.
Their first stop takes them to Washington State and to the home of a woman who John said helped his ex-wife gain custody of their children. The children, he feels, were unfairly taken from him.
The idea was that John Allen Muhammad tasked Lee with his very first murder. This is your first test to prove that you are my son, I am your father. And so he walks up to the door, and John told him to breathe. You have to breathe deep. And he's breathing while his heart's pounding at the same time. When he knocks on the door, the knocks resonate through his body. He's feeling everything. He's in the moment. He realizes this is the biggest thing he'll ever do in his life. And when the door opens, he says he saw his own face. And in his own mind, he was killing himself and the life that he formerly knew as being an innocent person.
There you go.
You did good. All right? Just need you to breathe. Breathe.
Lee thinks he's completed his mission. In a tragic twist of fate, he missed his target. Instead of shooting his intended victim, he shot her 21-year-old niece, Kenya Cook.
She was not the intended target at all. She was simply at the wrong place at the wrong time.
But despite the mix-up, Lee's first kill proves to John that he is ready for the battle to come, just like Neo in The Matrix.
In The Matrix, Neo even has to fight some of the other members of the team just to prove that he's ready for all comers at all times.
You know how proud I am of you? The way you handled yourself? Exceptionally well. Exceptionally well. Look.
John hands over to Lee his new ID card with his new identity. John Lee Muhammad.
This is your new identity. The old you is gone, so forget about it. That's the person who you are now.
They are more together than they ever were previously. They are two men, father and son, fighting the world in a mission that they feel is righteous.
They set out to achieve John Muhammad's ultimate goal, stealing back his children from his ex-wife in Washington, D.C., and to avenge the system who took them from John.
I confronted him. I said, we know where the children are. Why not just kill them and leave? I mean, that's the whole story. I mean, what's this? He's like, no, I won't get back at these for what they did to me. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I'm going to get my children, and we're going to terrorize them. Period. They're going to know what they have done.
You and I are going to create such a chaos in this region that they're going to meet every demand that I ask.
Like Morpheus and Neo fighting the oppressed system, they were working to get John's kids back. In John's mind, it was the system that in fact took his kids. So that system had to be broken. It had to be shattered. And the only way to do that was to enact the violence that they were going to do in order to create that chaotic moment to where he could get those children back.
Now, what does this say about Muhammad's reality? One would think he was completely delusional. So filled up with hatred and anger that he can't see any other solution than to kill and to continue to kill.
When they arrive on the East Coast, they purchase a car for their mission.
He was looking for that particular model because of the space.
You mean the sniper roost inside the car idea?
The vehicle will allow John Muhammad and Lee Malvo an opportunity to disrupt society.
And how they would do that was by shooting random people at random times.
They have the windows tinted and rig the trunk so one person can lie down and shoot out of it.
They had rigged up a system where they drilled a hole in the trunk of the car next to the license plate so that they could, without anybody realizing this, stick the rifle and fire through the trunk, basically, and it would be over before anybody realized what had happened. Then the car could simply take off.
On October 2nd, 2002, they arrive at a grocery store parking lot in Aspen Hill, Maryland.
All right, this is it.
Mobile 1, all clear.
All right.
John spots a potential target in his sights. A middle-aged man wheels his grocery cart toward his car. John takes aim. The innocent shopper has no idea that a deadly sniper is following his every move. Controlled by two killers who are set on showing the world their so-called Matrix. In 1999, the movie The Matrix delights viewers with cutting-edge graphics, including a visual effect technique called bullet time, a style that is completely unprecedented to audiences.
The Matrix was an important film for so many reasons. The visual effects, as well as some of the sound, the editing, just gave the audiences something they had never seen before.
A hallmark of the film is its over-the-top action scenes where the death count seems endless.
The Matrix, of course, there are no consequences. It's a movie. But in reality, there are consequences for murder.
But consequences don't register for John Muhammad and Lee Malvo, who are now using the film The Matrix as a blueprint for murder. They're on a mission in the Washington, D.C. area to kidnap John's kids from his ex-wife. Kids they believe were unfairly taken by the system.
The best way for a system to be broken is to go against it and make what is comfortable chaotic. And how they would do that was by shooting random people at random times.
All right.
And they have a victim in their sights. A 55-year-old father and husband named James Martin.
John sets his sniper roost at a grocery store where a man has no idea that a shooting is about to occur.
Before anyone else notices, the snipers vanish like ghosts.
I'm at Shopper's Warehouse on Randolph Road, and a man just fell in the parking lot. There was a loud noise, but we're not sure if he was shot.
Is he bleeding?
Yes.
The devastating effect about the man in the grocery store was he was simply doing what he did every day or every week. He could not have done anything to prevent the shooting.
It's a horrific crime, but what police don't realize is these killers are just getting started.
The next day, John and Lee are refreshed and ready to start killing again.
While driving around the metropolitan area, John Muhammad and Lee Malvo find their next target.
It was a Wednesday. It was a little after 7:30 in the morning.
Sonny Buchanan has no idea.
We all are kind of going into the newsroom because we have a 9 o'clock morning meeting.
Two murderers are watching his every move. John Muhammad has his finger on the trigger.
What's going on there? This guy's lawnmower did something, man. It chopped him up. He's bleeding real bad. He's down and out.
There had been a shooting the day before, but we didn't put it all together. But the police scanner kept going off.
30 minutes later, the next victim dies.
Oh my God,
Ma'am, listen to me. What is wrong?
a man has been killed in front of me.
How is he being killed in front of you?
I was shot. I don't know.
The victim, 54-year-old Prem Kumar Walikar, a cab driver filling up his car at a gas station.
I don't remember the exact dreadful aha moment when we all thought this is not a coincidence.
The third victim of the day, 34-year-old Sarah Ramos.
We were flying out the door and the scanners were going off and we knew there's no way this could be a coincidence.
The fourth victim, Lori Ann Lewis Rivera, is shot and killed while vacuuming her van at a gas station.
People were getting gunned down doing the most everyday types of things.
The random shootings paralyze the nation.
It had to be somebody different each time. That's why the victims ranged in age, race, color, etc. That was very important. The idea was nobody was safe, no matter where they were, at any time.
The person or the people that are doing this, rethink what you're doing, turn yourself in to law enforcement.
The next day, John Muhammad and Lee Malvo set out again, with their killing spree nowhere near completion.
Throughout the shootings, Muhammad continued to preach the idea of the Matrix and the idea that they are part of breaking up a larger system.
As Muhammad continues to use the Matrix as a tool to manipulate Lee, what happens with Lee is he begins to disassociate. He no longer can feel.
They pull into a craft store parking lot and search for their next target.
They were able to blend in with traffic because the car did not stick out in any one way that would tip off anybody that something was out of the ordinary.
In the Matrix, their place of safety was the ship. They knew that if they made any noise or gave away anything that would help the Sentinels locate them, it was going to be certain death. And then I think, like any other good sniper team, they would have to remain quiet and assume that anything that they did that was untoward would give their position away.
Around 2 p.m., they spot their next victim.
A 43-year-old Caroline Sewell was at a craft store buying Halloween decorations and other items for her kids.
Stop 2911, what's your emergency? We've had a lady shot in our parking lot. This is Michaels in Fredericksburg.
Ms. Sewell did survive the shooting.
The following day, John decides to switch things up.
It's time for you to step up.
For the first time during their killing spree, Lee Malvo becomes the sniper.
Focus up.
Lee is outside the car. It provided Lee with no safety. The idea, I believe, was that Muhammad put Lee in a position where he could be seen and identified.
John Muhammad is using Lee Malvo as a pawn. He is willing to sacrifice Lee in the event someone witnesses the shooting.
The idea was, if we miss a target, we have to move on.
Only this mission has a different type of victim in mind.
John Allen Muhammad made the decision to shoot a child because he felt that that would put the police on notice that nobody was safe.
Why Muhammad chose a kid for Lee to shoot is also to test his dedication as a soldier to Muhammad. And so it became a test to see if Lee could and would kill an innocent 13-year-old.
In the movie The Matrix, human beings are unknowingly taken over by a system of machines. Morpheus stresses to his pupil, Neo, that they are the only ones who can bring about a cure.
It's not as simple as this protagonist and that antagonist. It's really us against the entire world.
I've watched The Matrix at least 300 times, again and again and again and again and again.
Outside of Washington, D.C., John Muhammad and Lee Malvo have studied The Matrix and seem to be on a similar mission.
The system was broken, according to Muhammad, that people needed to wake up and understand that there was a system in place that needed to be changed. And in order to do that, chaos had to reign supreme.
John Muhammad believes that by shooting random people, he will create enough chaos in the system, and the police will have no choice but to give him back his kids. Their current target, 13-year-old Iran Brown, right outside his own school.
It's my belief that the child was to show simply that nobody was safe, especially a child.
Lee sets his sight on a boy who is only 4 years younger than himself. Miraculously, Iran survives, but there is no telling what the DC snipers will do next. Schools around the area go on lockdown to help prevent another tragedy.
When they started saying pretty much all bets are off, children can be victims too, I think that elevated the urgency of finding these people. I think it intensified the scrutiny on the police department.
The idea of moms taking their kids to school and sheltering them from a potential sniper attack is not the American I know, and therefore we're lending all the resources of the federal government, all that have been required to do everything we can to assist the local law authorities to find us, whoever it is.
With everyone's attention focused on the killings, John Muhammad and Lee Malvo decide to further toy with authorities.
Love calls to signs recorded.
Good morning. Don't say anything, just listen. Where are the people that are causing the killing in your area? Look on the terror card. It says, call me God.
It was the death card, and written on it was, call me God for you, Mr. Police.
They've gotten away literally with murder, but there's this need for attention. There's this need to glorify in the murders they've committed.
The effort to catch the DC snipers becomes a nationwide concern.
Nobody was safe. It wasn't a gang-related or a drug-related or in a bad part of town or your normal stuff that you would cover in Washington, D.C. This was in the suburbs. This was mothers and taxi drivers and just normal people. It was really spooky.
There seems to be no end to the snipers' madness. In an effort to catch the DC snipers, police have set up security checkpoints around all major highways. John Mohammed and Lee Malvo have just been pulled over for a routine safety check.
Evening, gentlemen.
Their initial reaction upon being stopped was that they were caught.
How are you, officer? Good.
There's a great scene in The Matrix where the team is actually in the false walls of this apartment building, and the police, who are really the Matrix, are searching for them all over. I mean, they're trying to carefully, quietly crawl down and not make any noise, not give away their position.
License and registration, please.
It's a strikingly similar situation to what Lee and John are facing.
The moment they were stopped by the police was terrifying because they realized that their mission could be over way before they had figured it had even begun, because they had planned to enact this for months.
John Mohammed and Lee Malvo have no intentions of getting caught. They are prepared to kill again in order to stay on their mission. Every time Neo and Morpheus enter the Matrix, they put their lives in danger for the greater good. A far cry from what Lee Malvo and John Mohammed are doing in the Washington, D.C. area.
Lee had expressed the fact that he had watched The Matrix with John as many as 300 times. So the idea was to take the roles of The Matrix, with Lee believing himself as Neo, the young prodigy, to John Allen Muhammad, who would be playing the role of Morpheus.
They've been randomly shooting people sniper style in order to wake people up to the system that oppresses them. And now, a police officer has just pulled John and Lee over at a security checkpoint. The officer has no idea that two vicious serial killers are in his midst.
Literally looking at the killers. But to him, just looks like a father and his son.
Be right back. Check something out. Relax. Calm down.
And to know that this could end this very minute was terrifying for both of them.
Gentlemen, here you go.
Thank you.
You guys can take your hands down. We got some suspicious activity in the area, so have you seen anything out of the ordinary?
No, not at all. But are you guys gonna catch whoever's doing this?
Their initial reaction upon being stopped was that they were caught. But John soon realized that they, in fact, were not being questioned for the shootings. Rather, this was just a routine traffic stop.
We're trying our best.
So, since there was no criminal activity related to this particular vehicle, the police let them go.
And so, the killing spree continues. A bus driver is their next victim. On October 23rd, the two kill 35-year-old Conrad Johnson. But detectives are closing in. The tarot card left behind at an earlier crime scene reveals a fingerprint. And when they check their database, they come up with a match to an immigration document for Lee Malvo.
When authorities looked into the background of Lee Boyd Malvo, they connected him to John Allen Muhammad. Police soon realized that John Allen Muhammad had a motive for being in the Beltway area. It was because his wife, who had his 3 children, lived there.
Detectives learned from title records that John Mohammed owns a 1990 Chevy Caprice. When detectives look back at their case files, they realize this type of car was seen around many of the shootings.
A federal arrest warrant has been issued for John Allen Muhammad, also known as John Allen Williams.
Police put out a be on the lookout for John's car. They hope to catch the snipers before they strike again. As it turns out, luck is on their side.
Late at night on October 23rd, around 11:30, a man recognized the car at a rest stop. The police had no idea what to expect given the gravity of the shootings and the ability for these two individuals to get away. They didn't know if more people were waiting for them or if this was a trap.
Inside the car, all is still.
Lee was supposed to stay awake and stay watch and notify Muhammad, but he couldn't do it. He was exhausted.
Please! Put your hands up! Hands up! Get on the ground, now! Get down! Get out of the car! Get on the ground! Your hands behind your back!
They are arrested. But Lee doesn't forget his training.
I think that Lee Boyd Malvo saw his mission change from, okay, we're going to do something to save the world from itself, now became, I need to do all I can to try to spare whatever the system is going to bring down on the head of John Allen Muhammad. I think that's symbolically similar to what happens in the movie The Matrix, where Neo has to go back to save Morpheus. I think that Lee Boyd Malvo felt at this point that it was his role as much as possible to save John Allen Muhammad.
Lee takes responsibility for all the shootings.
It was me. I killed them all.
In Lee's mind, everyone could be evil, and everyone could be an agent because of his belief in the Matrix. They're all part of the system, and the system is the enemy.
Even though Lee tries to take the fall for his mentor, the system has the last word.
Muhammad was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to die by lethal injection. Lee Boyd Malvo was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
It takes Lee years, once he's incarcerated, to realize that he was brainwashed, that he was brainwashed by Muhammad, and that all of his actions do have consequences.
In the end, the system Lee Malvo worked so hard to dismantle puts him behind bars for the rest of his life.
I'm not one of these guys here saying I'm innocent. I know what I've done, so this is punishment. I understand and I accept it. So from that position of, being responsible, it's like, I'm here, make the best of what I do have. It's not much, but it's never been much. I mean, that's been the story of my life.
This was a time within the DC area of true terror. People were scared and people were frightened and people didn't know what to do. And even though Muhammad and Lee have been caught, people are left questioning why.
The DC snipers case is one of the worst copycat crimes in our nation's history. Luckily, there won't be a sequel for John Muhammad and Lee Malvo.